He saved the princess at the cost of his life. The royals couldn't believe their eyes. The emergency alarm echoed through the royal starship like a wounded cry. Lights flickered from gold to red, and the smooth hum of advanced engines broke into uneven shudders. The galactic royal convoy had traveled through hundreds of systems without trouble, protected by the best technology the Empire could create. Yet now, in a forbidden sector marked as empty and harmless, everything was failing. Princess Aloria gripped the armrest of her seat as the ship shook again. She was young by her species' standards, but trained to hide fear behind calm eyes. Still, fear crept into her chest as she watched officers rush across the command deck. Screens showed static where star maps should be, shields were collapsing, and long-range weapons refused to respond. "The interference is increasing," an officer reported, his voice tight. "We can't jump, we can't signal for help." The royal guards exchanged uneasy glances. This was not supposed to happen. The galaxy had been mapped, measured, and controlled. There were no unknown dangers left, or so they believed. Another violent impact slammed through the ship. Hull plates screamed as something unseen tore into them. Aloria's heart raced. The enemy was not visible, but its presence was undeniable. "We're losing control," the captain said. "Prepare for emergency landing. Nearest habitable planet detected." Aloria leaned forward. "What world?" The navigation officer hesitated before answering. "Designation Earth." A low murmur spread across the deck. Some officers stiffened, others looked almost offended. "Earth," one guard scoffed. "That backward death world?" "Humans," another muttered. "Fragile, short-lived, barely space-capable." Princess Aloria had studied many species, but humans were rarely discussed. They were considered irrelevant, a minor civilization from a harsh planet filled with storms, predators, and constant conflict. The Empire had no treaties with them, no real interest. Yet now Earth was their only option. The ship plunged through atmosphere in flames. Advanced stabilizers failed one by one, forcing manual control. The sky outside the viewport burned bright orange, then faded into clouds. The impact came suddenly, violently. Metal screamed. Systems died, then silence. Smoke filled the corridors. Emergency lights glowed faintly. The royal convoy had survived, but barely. Aloria was escorted out of the damaged ship by her guards. The air outside was thick, cool, and unfamiliar. The landscape was uneven, filled with strange plants and distant structures made of stone and metal. Earth. Long-range sensors flickered back online, just enough to reveal a terrifying truth. The same hostile force that attacked them was still out there, moving closer. Whatever had hunted the royal convoy had not given up. The guards formed a defensive circle around the princess. Their weapons powered up, but confidence was gone. Their shields were unreliable. Their systems were failing under the same interference. Minutes passed. Then distant lights appeared on the horizon. Vehicles approached, fast and loud. The guards raised their weapons. From the vehicles stepped humans. They were smaller than most royal guards, lacking natural armor or energy shields. They wore simple protective gear, marked with symbols and colors instead of royal crests. Their weapons looked crude compared to galactic standards, relying on solid projectiles rather than energy beams. One human stepped forward. His movements were calm, controlled. He removed his helmet, revealing a tired face with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "This is Earth Defense," he said through a translator device. "You've crash-landed in restricted territory. Are you injured?" The guards stared at him in disbelief. One of them laughed harshly. "You dare approach royalty with such casual tone?" the guard demanded. The human did not flinch. His eyes briefly met Princess Aloria's. There was no fear in them, no awe either, only focus. "We detected your distress signal," the human said evenly. "We're here to help." Help. The word felt strange. Aloria studied him closely. He was not tall, not powerful by galactic standards, yet something about him unsettled her. He stood between armed alien guards without hesitation, as if danger was an old companion. Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled. A deep vibration rolled through the air, followed by a distant roar that made even the guards tense. The human's expression hardened. He turned to his team and gave quick orders. They moved instantly, spreading out, scanning the sky, setting up defensive equipment with practiced speed. "They found you," the human said quietly, "and now they know where you landed." Aloria's breath caught. "You know who attacked us." "We don't know what they are," he replied, But they've been hunting anything that enters this sector. You're not the first. The guards bristled. Then why are you still here? One demanded. Why risk yourselves for us? The human looked back at the princess again. His voice remained steady. Because you asked for help, and because that's what we do. Moments later, the sky split open with fire. Enemy craft descended without warning, sleek and dark, moving in ways that defied prediction. Energy blasts tore into the landscape, vaporizing stone and earth. The royal guards fired back, but their weapons misfired, their shields flickered and died. Panic spread through their formation. The humans did not panic. They moved. The human soldier who had spoken first ran toward the incoming fire instead of away from it. He shouted commands, directing both his own team and the confused royal guards. Explosions rocked the ground around him, throwing dirt and debris into the air. He didn't slow down. Eloria watched in shock as the human dragged a wounded royal guard out of the line of fire, shielding him with his own body as blasts struck nearby. The impact sent him rolling, armor cracked, blood visible along his arm. He stood up anyway. "Fall back to the ridge," he shouted. "We'll hold them here. You will die," one guard yelled back. The human glanced over his shoulder, almost smiling despite the chaos. "Yeah, maybe, but not today." The enemy pressed closer. Their weapons were powerful, precise. One direct hit struck the human square in the chest, throwing him against a broken structure. His armor shattered. Sensors screamed. Eloria gasped, certain he was dead. He moved, slowly, painfully, but he rose again, lifting his weapon with shaking hands. Royal scanners lit up with impossible readings. His injuries were severe. By galactic medical standards, he should have collapsed, should have gone into shock. Instead, his heart rate increased. His movements became faster, more desperate, more determined. "What is wrong with him?" a guard whispered. Eloria did not answer. She could not take her eyes off the human. The humans fought with nothing held back. They used the terrain, sacrificed position for time for lives. They did not retreat when wounded. They did not freeze when overwhelmed. Finally, the enemy ships pulled back as if reassessing. Silence returned, broken only by the sound of human breathing and distant fires. The human soldier stumbled, nearly falling. Eloria moved before her guards could stop her. She approached him, ignoring their protests. "You are injured," she said softly. He looked at her, blood on his face, eyes still sharp. "You're alive, that's what matters." Medical teams rushed in, human and alien working side by side. As they treated the wounded, the enemy signal appeared again on scanners, stronger, closer. The human soldier sat up despite the medics' protests. "They're coming back," he said, "and next time they'll hit harder." Eloria felt a chill run through her. "Then we will evacuate." He shook his head. "Your ship can't move, not yet." "Then what do you propose?" one guard demanded. The human looked toward the horizon where darkness gathered. "We buy time," he said quietly, "as much as it takes." For the first time in her life, Princess Eloria saw something the galaxy had never recorded. A species considered weak, primitive, and insignificant stood ready to face annihilation without hesitation. And at the center of it all stood one human, wounded and unyielding, preparing to fight again. She realized, with a tightening in her chest, that the galaxy had made a terrible mistake about humanity. And this was only the beginning. Night fell slowly over the crash site, but darkness did not bring peace. Fires still burned where enemy weapons had struck the land. The damaged royal ship rested like a wounded giant, its once brilliant surface now scarred and broken. Emergency lights blinked weakly, struggling to stay alive. Princess Eloria stood near a temporary command shelter built by the humans. She watched them work with quiet disbelief. They moved without hesitation, even though everyone knew the enemy would return. Humans dug trenches, set up simple barricades, and positioned weapons that looked small and outdated compared to galactic technology. Yet there was confidence in every movement. The human soldier who had led the defense earlier sat on a crate nearby while medics worked on him. His armor had been cut away, revealing deep burns and wounds that should have left him unconscious. Still, he stayed awake, jaw tight, eyes focused on the horizon. "Lie down," a medic ordered. "Your body needs rest." "I'll rest later," the soldier replied. His voice was calm but firm. "Tell me the status." The medic sighed but answered. "We've lost 2 vehicles. Ammunition is limited. We're setting up fallback points." The soldier nodded once, accepting the facts without complaint. Eloria approached slowly. Her guards followed at a distance, clearly uncomfortable being surrounded by humans. She stopped a few steps away from the soldier. "You should be recovering," she said. He looked up at her. "So should your people." "You already did more than was expected," she continued. "No one would blame you if you withdrew." The soldier gave a small, tired smile. "We don't really work like that." She studied him closely. "Why?" The question surprised him. He paused before answering. "Because if we don't stand here, someone else gets hurt. Simple as that." Simple, the word echoed in her mind. Nothing about this situation felt simple. Behind her, one of the royal guards scoffed. "You act as if your life has little value." The soldier turned his head slightly, meeting the guard's gaze. "It has value. That's why I'm using it." The guard had no reply. As the night deepened, sensors picked up movement. Multiple enemy signatures appeared on screens, advancing slowly, carefully. They had learned from the first attack. "They're testing us," a human officer said, "probing defenses." The soldier stood despite the medic's protests. Pain flashed across his face, but he ignored it. "All units," he said into his communicator, "stay sharp. Don't waste ammo. Make them think twice." Princess Eloria watched as humans took positions. Some were young, some older. None of them showed fear. They checked weapons, shared brief words, even quiet jokes. It was not recklessness, it was familiarity. The enemy attack began without warning. Energy beams cut through the darkness, striking human defenses. Explosions shook the ground. The humans responded instantly. Their weapons were loud, physical, sending solid rounds toward targets that moved faster than expected. The royal guards joined the fight, but confusion spread among them. Their targeting systems lagged. Their shields flickered uselessly. Eloria took cover as blasts struck nearby. Through the chaos, she saw the human soldier moving again, directing fire, dragging wounded allies to safety. Every step looked painful, yet he refused to slow. An enemy unit broke through the left flank. It moved with terrifying speed, heading straight for the royal ship. The soldier saw it. "Princess!" he shouted. "Get back!" Before the guards could react, the enemy fired. The blast tore through the air toward Eloria. The soldier ran. He did not think. He did not hesitate. He placed himself directly in the path of the attack. The impact lifted him off his feet and slammed him into the ground. Eloria screamed as dust and smoke filled the air. When the smoke cleared, the enemy unit lay destroyed, but the soldier did not move. Humans rushed to him. The medics knelt, scanning, shouting updates. Royal guards stood frozen, staring at the broken human body on the ground. "He's alive," a medic said, shocked. "Barely." Eloria rushed forward, ignoring danger. She knelt beside him. His breathing was shallow. Blood stained the ground beneath him. "Why?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Why would you do that?" His eyes opened slightly. He looked at her, struggling to focus. "Because you matter," he said weakly. "Doesn't matter who you are." Tears burned in her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not as royalty, not as an asset, as a life. The enemy attack faltered again, retreating into the darkness. Silence followed, heavier than before. The human soldier was carried to the medical shelter. Doctors worked urgently, using everything they had. Royal healers offered assistance, stunned by the severity of his injuries and the fact that he still lived. Royal scientists monitored his vitals. The data confused them. "His pain receptors are overwhelmed," one said. "Any other species would be unconscious. And yet he remains aware," another added. "His body is pushing far beyond safe limits." Eloria stood nearby, listening. "Can you save him?" a human doctor answered honestly. "We can stabilize him. But if he fights again, there may not be a second recovery." Outside, the enemy regrouped. Sensors showed larger numbers gathering. A full assault was coming. The Royal Council connected through a damaged communication array. Their images flickered above a table. "This situation is unacceptable," one noble said. "We must prioritize royal survival." "Agreed," another added. "The human forces have done enough. They should withdraw." Eloria clenched her fists. "Withdraw to where?" she demanded. "This is their world." "Their lives are not worth more than yours," a council member replied calmly. Her voice shook with anger. "They already proved otherwise." Silence followed. She turned away from the council and walked back to the medical shelter. The human soldier lay unconscious now, machines assisting his breathing. His face looked peaceful, almost younger without the tension of battle. She placed a hand gently on the edge of the bed. The enemy signal spiked again. This time it was massive. Human commanders gathered. Faces were grim. "They're coming in force," one said. "We can't hold them for long." The soldier stirred as if sensing the danger. His eyes opened slowly. "No," a medic said. "Stay still." But he tried to sit up. "They're coming," he whispered. "We know," the commander replied. "And we're outmatched." The soldier closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with renewed focus. "Then we change the plan." "There is no plan left," the commander said quietly. "There is," the soldier replied. "Get the princess ready to move." Eloria stepped forward. "What do you mean?" He met her gaze. "There's a route through the mountains, old tunnels, hard to detect. We can get you out." "And you?" she asked, already knowing the answer. He looked away for a moment. "Someone has to stay." "No," she said firmly. "You've done enough." He smiled faintly. "That's not how this ends." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what he was offering. The royal guards protested. The human commanders argued. The soldier listened, then spoke again, his voice soft but unbreakable. "If they want you," he said to Eloria, "they'll have to go through me first." For the first time, she truly understood. This was not bravery driven by orders or duty. This was a choice. Outside, the enemy fleet descended, blotting out the stars. And one wounded human prepared to stand alone against them. The mountain air was cold and thin, carrying the smell of burned earth and metal. Dawn had not yet arrived, but the sky was no longer fully dark. A weak gray light crept over the horizon, revealing the scale of the danger gathering beyond the hills. Enemy ships hovered like silent predators. They moved slowly now, confidently, certain of victory. Their numbers were far greater than before. This was not a test. This was the end. Inside the human command shelter, tension pressed down on everyone. Maps glowed on cracked screens, showing red markers closing in from every direction. Human commanders spoke in low voices, choosing words carefully. Royal guards stood stiff and uneasy, unused to fighting without certainty. Princess Eloria stood near the entrance, her gaze fixed on the wounded human soldier. He was awake again. Bandages covered his chest and arms. Machines had been disconnected as much as possible so he could move. Every breath looked painful, but his eyes were clear, too clear for someone who should have been broken. "You should not be standing," a medic said quietly, one last attempt. The soldier nodded once. "I know." He adjusted the simple rifle in his hands. It was not advanced. It did not glow or hum. It was heavy, solid, real. Eloria stepped closer. "They are waiting," she said. "If you go out there, you will not survive." He met her eyes. "I know that too." Her voice shook. "Then why?" He was silent for a moment. Outside, the distant sound of engines rolled like thunder. "Because," he said slowly, "there are moments where surviving isn't the point." She searched his face, looking for doubt, fear, hesitation. There was none, only resolve. The evacuation teams were already moving. Humans guided the royal family and guards toward the mountain tunnels. These passages were old, carved deep into stone decades earlier, forgotten by most censors. It was their only chance. Eloria hesitated at the tunnel entrance. She turned back. "You saved me twice already," she said. "You don't owe me anything." The soldier shook his head. "This isn't about debt." "Then what is it about?" she asked. He gave a faint smile. "If I don't stand here, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." "However long that is." She swallowed hard. For the first time, she bowed her head to him, not as royalty, but as one life acknowledging another. "I will remember you," she said. "That's enough," he replied. The tunnel doors began to close. Eloria watched him through the narrowing gap, standing alone against the rising light. When the doors sealed, darkness swallowed her. Outside, the soldier walked forward. The battlefield was quiet, too quiet. Enemy forces emerged from the hills, tall and sharp-edged, moving with perfect coordination. Their weapons charged, glowing with contained power. They stopped when they saw him. One human, no shield, no support. Their scanners swept over his body, analyzing damage, calculating probability. The results made no sense. He should not be standing. A voice echoed across the field, translated into human language. "Identify yourself." The soldier planted his feet into the dirt. Pain screamed through his nerves, but he locked it away. "My name doesn't matter," he said. "You're not going any farther." The enemy paused. "Move aside," the voice replied. "This does not concern you." The soldier raised his rifle. "It does now." The first shot rang out. The battle exploded into motion. Enemy weapons fired, tearing into the ground around him. Explosions threw him backward, slamming him into stone. His body screamed in protest. Blood filled his mouth. He pushed himself up. He fired again. He did not aim to win. He aimed to delay. Every step forward cost him more. His vision blurred. His hands shook. Yet each time he fell, he forced himself back up. Enemy units advanced cautiously now. Their calculations shifted. This single human was disrupting timing, formation, efficiency. That should not have been possible. A direct blast struck his side. The force shattered bone. He cried out, the sound ripped from his chest before he could stop it. He collapsed to one knee. The enemy closed in. He laughed weakly, breathless. That all you've got? He fired again. An enemy unit fell. Pain flooded him deeper than before. His body wanted to shut down. It begged him to stop. He refused. Images flashed through his mind. His home, his team, a sky that belonged to humanity, faces of people he would never see again. And the princess standing alive behind him, that was enough. He stood again, swaying, barely balanced. Blood soaked into the dirt beneath his boots. Enemy fire struck him again and again. His armor was gone. His body was failing. Every breath burned. Still he stood. Sensors across the battlefield lit up with impossible readings. Adrenaline flooded his system. His brain released chemicals meant only for final moments, pushing him past safe limits. The enemy voice returned, less calm now. You cannot win. The soldier wiped blood from his eyes. I don't need to. He triggered the final charge. A device at his waist activated, overloading enemy sensors with raw energy. It was not powerful. It was not clean. It was human. The explosion ripped through the ground, throwing enemy units back. The shockwave shattered stone, collapsed paths, and sent debris crashing down the mountain face. The tunnels. Inside the mountains, Eloria felt the earth shake. Dust rained from the ceiling. The escorts froze. What was that? A guard demanded. A human guide swallowed. He did it. Outside, the battlefield burned. The soldier lay on the ground now, unable to rise. His chest barely moved. His vision dimmed. The sky above him was brightening with the first light of day. Enemy forces regrouped slowly. Their path forward was blocked by collapsed terrain and unstable energy fields. Their advance was halted. For now, one enemy unit approached him cautiously. It raised its weapon, aiming at his chest. The soldier opened one eye. He smiled. The weapon fired. The impact was final. Silence followed. The enemy withdrew moments later, not out of mercy but calculation. Their objective had escaped. The cost had been too high. Hours later, human search teams returned to the battlefield. Smoke drifted over shattered ground. They found him where he had fallen, body still, face calm. They stood in silence. Inside the mountain tunnels, Princess Eloria felt something break inside her. She did not need confirmation. She knew. The galaxy would never understand what happened on that field, but she would. A single human had stood between extinction and survival, and he did not move. The mountain tunnels opened into daylight many hours later. Princess Eloria stepped out slowly, her body stiff from fear and exhaustion. The air felt different now. Quiet, too quiet. The sounds of battle were gone, replaced by wind moving gently across stone. Human scouts moved ahead carefully, scanning for threats. Royal guards followed, tense and silent. Everyone knew what they would find beyond the ridge. The battlefield lay broken before them. Scorched earth stretched across the valley. Enemy wreckage lay scattered among shattered rocks and collapsed ground. Smoke drifted upward in thin lines, fading into the sky. The enemy fleet was gone, and at the center of it all they found him. The human soldier lay where he had fallen. His body was still. His weapon rested beside his hand. His face was calm, as if he were simply sleeping beneath the open sky. No one spoke. Princess Eloria felt her legs weaken. She took a step forward, then another, until she stood only a few feet away. The world felt unreal, distant, like she was watching from somewhere far inside herself. This was the one who had stood alone. This was the one the galaxy had ignored. A human officer knelt beside the fallen soldier. He checked vitals out of habit, even though everyone knew the truth. He lowered his head and closed the soldier's eyes with gentle care. He held them, the officer said quietly, longer than we expected. Another human shook his head. Longer than anyone should have been able to? Royal guards stared in disbelief. Their scanners still showed traces of the battle energy readings far beyond safe limits. No single being should have survived even minutes under that pressure. Princess Eloria knelt. She reached out slowly, her hand trembling, and touched the human's shoulder. The armor beneath her fingers was cracked and burned. This body had been pushed far beyond what it was made for, and yet it had not failed until the very end. I remember you, she whispered. Human recovery teams worked through the day. They secured the area, gathered equipment, and prepared the fallen soldier for return. No ceremony, no speeches, just quiet respect. When the royal ship was finally repaired enough to lift off, Princess Eloria insisted on waiting. She stood with the humans as they carried the soldier onto a transport vehicle. She watched as they covered him with a simple cloth marked only by Earth's symbol. "No statues?" one royal guard asked quietly, confused. "No honors," a human commander replied without looking up. "Those come later." The convoy departed hours later, rising slowly into the sky. Princess Eloria watched Earth disappear beneath clouds. Her chest felt heavy. The universe she thought she understood now felt smaller and more fragile. During the journey back to the core systems, silence filled the royal chambers. The council gathered, their faces serious, unsettled. Reports played across the central display. Battle data, medical analysis, sensor recordings, the truth was undeniable. A single human had delayed an entire enemy force. "How is this possible?" one noble demanded. "The data violates known biological limits." A scientist answered carefully. "Human biology evolved under constant threat. Their bodies release extreme chemical responses under stress. Pain suppression, strength amplification, mental focus beyond normal thresholds. But that would destroy them," another council member said. "Yes," the scientist replied, "and they accept that." Princess Eloria stood. "They don't accept it," she said firmly. "They choose it." The room fell silent. "They are not reckless," she continued. "They are deliberate, they know the cost, they pay it anyway," a noble scoffed. "For strangers, for anyone," Eloria replied. "That is what makes them dangerous." Debate followed, long and heated. Some argued that humanity was unstable, too emotional, too unpredictable. Others argued they were valuable allies. Princess Eloria listened, then spoke again. "You feared them because you thought them weak," she said. "Now you fear them because they are strong." But the truth is simpler. All eyes turned to her. "They are loyal," she said, "and they do not abandon those under their protection." The council requested further analysis. Human representatives were invited to speak. They did not boast. They did not exaggerate. They spoke plainly. "He was a soldier," one said. "He did his job." "That job cost him his life," a noble replied. The human nodded. "Yes." "That is unacceptable," the noble insisted. The human met his gaze calmly. "For us, it is normal." The galaxy changed that day, though most did not realize it yet. Across multiple systems, reports spread quietly. An unknown enemy force had been halted. A royal convoy had survived. A single human had stood alone and one time with his life. Military academies rewrote simulations. Tactical planners adjusted probability models. The phrase, human response, began appearing in classified files. Princess Eloria requested permission to address the Galactic Assembly. When she stood before them, thousands of eyes watched. She did not wear ceremonial armor. She wore simple clothing, unadorned. She told them everything. She did not soften the story. She did not dramatize it. She spoke of fear, of chaos, of a wounded human who refused to leave. She spoke of choice. "This is not a story of death," she said. "It is a story of value, of what one life means to another." She raised her hand and an image appeared. The battlefield, the fallen soldier. "This human had no obligation to us," she said. "No treaty, no reward, no promise of survival." The hall was silent. "He stood anyway," whispers spread. Fear followed, respect followed fear. When she finished, no one applauded. They simply sat, understanding settling slowly into their minds. Later, alone in her chamber, Princess Eloria looked out at the stars. Somewhere among them was Earth, a world the galaxy had dismissed. She thought of the human's words. "If I don't stand here, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." She realized something then. Humanity was not strong because they could fight. Humanity was strong because they chose to. And once that choice was made, nothing could stop them. The galaxy would learn. Soon, the stars above the Galactic Assembly burned brighter than usual, or so it seemed to Princess Eloria. The vast chamber was full. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the curved seats, their faces serious, alert, uneasy. News had spread faster than anyone expected. A human had died, and because of that death, an entire royal bloodline had survived. The assembly had seen wars, treaties, and betrayals, but this was different. This was not about territory or power. This was about meaning. Eloria stood at the center platform. Her posture was straight, her voice steady, but inside her heart felt heavy. She carried the memory of a quiet human who stood alone and did not move. Behind her, an image appeared, not of battle, not of fire. It showed a single human standing in open ground, weapon lowered, body already broken, still refusing to step aside. This, Eloria said softly, is the moment everything changed. Some shifted uncomfortably, others leaned forward. You have reviewed the data, she continued. You know the odds, you know what should have happened. She paused. And yet he stood. The chamber remained silent. Eloria raised her eyes. The galaxy has always measured strength in technology, in fleets, in numbers. We believed that survival belonged to those who calculated best. She turned slightly, facing the human delegation seated far below. They wore no symbols of rank beyond simple insignia, no medals, no grand colors. But humans measure something else, she said. They measure who is standing behind them. A murmur spread through the assembly. Eloria spoke of the tunnels, the collapsing ground, the moment she knew she would live because someone else chose not to. She did not glorify the violence. She did not hide the cost. He knew he would not survive, she said, and he went forward anyway. One representative finally spoke. Princess, many species have warriors, many have heroes. What makes this different? Eloria met his gaze. He was not protecting his world, he was protecting strangers. That answer landed heavily. After the assembly, the decisions came quickly. Humanity was granted protector status across multiple systems. Any attack on human-controlled space would be considered an act of aggression against the assembly itself. Trade restrictions were lifted. Diplomatic channels opened, but the humans did not celebrate. On Earth, the funeral was simple. A flag covered the coffin. No speeches were made at first, just silence. A silence filled with understanding. The human soldiers' unit stood together. They did not cry openly. They did not shout. They simply stood, hands steady, eyes forward. Princess Eloria was there. She wore no crown. When it was her turn, she stepped forward slowly. She placed a small object on the coffin. It was a royal emblem, stripped of power and status. It represented protection given and debt acknowledged. He stood when others could not, she said quietly, and because of him I stand here today. The wind moved gently through the gathered crowd. After the funeral, stories began to spread, not exaggerated tales, not myths, facts. How humans could continue moving with injuries that would disable others, how their minds sharpened under pressure instead of breaking, how their bonds with each other turned fear into resolve. Enemy forces across the galaxy took notice. They adjusted strategies. They avoided human space. Some ignored the warnings. Those who did learned quickly. Human fleets did not always have the best weapons. They did not always have the largest numbers, but they fought differently. They did not retreat easily. They did not abandon allies. And when cornered, they became something terrifying. Eloria visited Earth again months later, not as a princess on duty, but as a witness. She stood on a hill overlooking a human city. Life moved below. Children ran, vehicles passed, people laughed. This was what he had protected. A human official stood beside her. We didn't expect all this, he admitted. The attention, the fear. Eloria nodded. Fear is not what you earned. What did we earn then? He asked. She looked out over the city. Respect. In quiet corners of the galaxy, new sayings began to circulate. Do not corner a human. Do not threaten those they protect. If a human stands in your way, it is already too late. Years passed. The unknown enemy that attacked the royal convoy never returned. Intelligence suggested they altered their expansion paths entirely, avoiding regions marked with human presence. One report captured their reasoning in a single translated sentence. They do not retreat when logic demands it. In the royal archives, a new category was created. Not for battles or treaties, for choices. The human soldier's name was recorded there, not as a warrior, not as a weapon, but as a reminder. Princess Eloria returned to the mountain valley one last time. The land had begun to heal. Grass grew between scorched stones. The sky was clear. A small marker stood where he had fallen. No rank, no title, just words. He stood. Eloria knelt before it. You changed the galaxy, she said softly. You never asked for it, you never saw it. She stood again, looking toward the horizon. Humanity did not conquer the stars through fear or force. They earned their place through sacrifice. And the galaxy, once blind to their worth, would never forget the lesson carved into stone and blood on a quiet world called Earth. Because when humanity chooses to stand, the universe learns to step back.